God, this lady just tried to break down my door. I shot through the door.
Verdict as to count one. We, the jury, find as to count one of the charge. The defendant is guilty of manslaughter. Did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the offense, the defendant personally used a firearm? Yes. So say we all, dated the 16th day of August, 2024.
Does either side wish to poll the jurors to be polled?
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, please poll the jurors by number only.
Juror number 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 2, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 3, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 4, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 5, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 6, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you can go back to the jury room, please wait there and I'll discharge you in a few moments, okay?
Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Mary Calvi in today for Deborah. We begin with a neighbor feud that turned deadly after a woman complained about children playing near her property. The mother of the kids went over to confront her. That's when prosecutors say she was fatally shot by the woman right through the closed front door. As Les Trent reports, the whole incident is now being replayed in court.
3 knocks. That's all it took. On June 2nd, 2023, in Ocala, Florida, a mother named Ajike Owens stood on a porch across the street from her own front door. Her children stood behind her. She wasn't armed. She wasn't shouting. She had walked over for one reason: to get her son's tablet back from a neighbor who had taken it. She wasn't looking for trouble. She was looking for a tablet. Inside that house, a woman named Susan Lawrence stood behind a closed door with a loaded gun. Within seconds, AJ Owens would be shot through that door, in front of her 9-year-old son. Within hours, she would be dead. But how did a missing iPad turn into a murder? Welcome to Hidden Motive Crime. If you're new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Here, we bring you the untold details of true crime cases, the facts others leave behind, and the truths that deserve to be heard. Today, we explore what happened to Ajike AJ Owens, a mother of 4, killed through a closed door, and the year of 9/11 calls that came before it. Before this day, Susan Lawrence had already called police on the neighborhood children more than half a dozen times. When officers finally arrived at the murder scene, the sheriff hesitated to make an arrest because of one Florida law. The bullet that killed AJ Owens didn't come from a struggle. It came through a closed door, fired at a woman who never crossed the threshold. Her son stood beside her when it happened. Investigators would later say something even the sheriff didn't expect. Stand your ground did not apply here. Why? We'll get there. Ajike Owens was 35 years old, and to everyone who knew her in Ocala, Florida, she was simply AJ. She was a mother of 4. Friends and family describe a woman who built her entire schedule around her children: private school tuition, football practice, gymnastics lessons, dance recitals. She worked to give her kids opportunities most parents only talk about. She didn't just provide for them, she showed up for them. Her days followed the rhythm familiar to any working mother. Mornings spent getting 4 kids ready. Afternoons split between school pickups and practices. Evenings spent at home, in the apartment complex she lived in across the street from a rental house on the same block. A house belonging to a woman named Susan Lawrence. Beside that apartment complex sat an open field. For AJ's kids, it was just a place to play, a strip of grass between buildings where they could run, ride bikes, and pass the time the way kids do. Nobody thought twice about it. Nobody could have known that this same field would become the center of a criminal case, the state attorney's office, and a Netflix documentary 2 years later. But before any of that, there was Susan Lawrence. Lawrence, 58, had moved into a rental house in the same Ocala neighborhood. She was white. AJ Owens was black. And in the months leading up to June 2nd, 2023, Lawrence had already called police on the neighborhood children more than half a dozen times. The complaints followed a pattern. The kids were too loud. The kids were trespassing. The kids needed to be somewhere else. Officers responded to her calls again and again, body cameras running each time, recording footage that would later become the backbone of the entire documented timeline of this case. Footage prosecutors, journalists, and eventually a Netflix documentary crew would all rely on. To Lawrence, she was the one being disturbed. She was the one whose peace was being interrupted by children playing in a field beside her home. That was how she described herself to police, call after call. A neighbor pushed to her limit by noise she didn't ask for. But the record being built told a different story.
Interrogation video.
Was your goal to shoot and kill her?
No,
What was your goal?
to shoot and hopefully, she'd hear the shot and dissipate.
Each 911 call added another data point to a pattern of escalation. Each visit from law enforcement was one more documented warning that went unresolved. Nobody intervened in a way that changed the outcome. Nobody connected the calls into a single, growing problem. On one side of the street, a mother of 4, building a life around her children's futures. On the other, a woman whose relationship with those same children was being logged, call by call, into a Marion County Sheriff's Office file. 2 lives, 2 routines, separated by nothing more than a road and a field. Neither side knew how little time was left before that distance would close completely. The field beside the apartment complex was small, a patch of grass, a stretch of open ground. Nothing remarkable about it. But for over a year, it sat at the center of a conflict that never found a resolution. Complex played there the way children play anywhere, riding bikes, running, passing the time after school. Susan Lawrence saw it differently. To her, the field was an extension of her property, and the noise crossing it was an intrusion she wasn't willing to accept. So she called the police, not once, repeatedly. Body camera footage from those calls shows the same scene playing out again and again. Officers arriving at Lawrence's door. Lawrence describing the children as too loud, too disruptive, too close to her home. Officers speaking with the kids, speaking with Lawrence, and then leaving. The dispute calmed for the moment, but never settled. Each call added to the last. What started as complaints about noise became complaints about trespassing. What started as a phone call became, on more than one occasion, a direct confrontation between Lawrence and the children themselves. Witnesses and police reports describe her shouting at them to leave, calling them names, at times invoking racial slurs. This wasn't a single bad afternoon. It was a year-long pattern, documented call by call, visit by visit, with no lasting solution and no one stepping in to change its direction. Then came June 2nd, 2023. That afternoon, A.J. Owens' children were in the field again, doing what they always did, playing. Lawrence, according to witness accounts, began yelling at them to get off her property, using a racial slur as she did. The children left, but in the rush to get away from her, they left something behind. A tablet, an iPad belonging to one of AJ's sons. Lawrence picked it up, and instead of returning it, she kept it. She didn't know it yet, but a missing tablet was about to set off the final chain of events. A year of unanswered calls, unresolved disputes, and growing tension over a patch of grass was about to collide with one missing device. And there would be no body camera footage to calm this one down. It was still daylight when Israel, A.J. Owens' son, walked across the street to get his tablet back. He knocked. Susan Lawrence answered, and according to Israel's own account, she put the tablet down, then threw a pair of roller skates at him, calling him a slur as she did. Israel didn't go back alone a second time. He found his older brother Isaac, and the two of them returned together, but the situation didn't change. Lawrence, according to Israel, called them both names again. So Israel went to get the one person who could settle this, his mother. A.J. Owens crossed the street with her children behind her. She walked up to Lawrence's front door, the same door officers had stood in front of more times than anyone could count over the past year. She knocked, and when no one answered the way she expected, she knocked again. Behind that door, Susan Lawrence was holding a gun. She fired once, through the closed door, without opening it, without seeing who stood on the other side in that moment. The bullet struck A.J. Owens. Her 9-year-old son was standing right beside her. Lawrence called 911 herself, not to ask for help for the woman she'd just shot, but to report what she had done. A.J. Owens was struck and would not survive her injuries. In the minutes that followed, the scene outside that house turned into chaos. Officers arrived. Emergency medical workers arrived. Neighbors poured out of their homes, drawn by gunfire and screaming children. Nobody in that crowd had a clear picture of what had just happened. Only that a mother was down, her kids were screaming, and the woman who lived behind that door was the one who pulled the trigger. Word spread through Ocala fast. A mother of 4 shot to death through her neighbor's front door, in front of her own son. The community's reaction was immediate: shock, grief, and a rising anger that would only grow in the days ahead. But in the first hours after the shooting, something else became the story. Susan Lawrence was not arrested at the scene. Florida's Stand Your Ground law gives people the right to use deadly force if they reasonably believe their life is in danger. Sheriff Billy Woods would later admit publicly that this law was the reason for the delay, that until investigators could rule out a legitimate self-defense claim, an immediate arrest wasn't being made. For 4 days, Susan Lawrence remained free. For 4 days, A.J. Owens's family waited, while a community demanded to know how a woman could shoot through a closed door and still be considered, under the law, a potential victim. While A.J. Owens's family grieved, the Marion County Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Unit went to work. Investigators pulled surveillance footage from the area. They interviewed witnesses, neighbors, and the children who had been standing beside their mother when the shot was fired.
Number 4 A.J. Owens went to Lorenza's home to confront
They
her.
reviewed the year of body camera footage already on file. Every prior call, every prior visit to that same front door. What they found didn't support a self-defense claim. The evidence showed that Susan Lawrence had not been threatened by someone forcing their way into her home. She had not opened the door to face an attacker. The record showed a woman who had repeatedly escalated conflict with her neighbors over the better part of a year, and who, on June 2nd, fired a gun through a closed door at a person standing outside it. Sheriff Billy Woods addressed the public directly. He said the law was clear and that he would follow it, whether he agreed with it or not, but that stand your ground did not apply here. In his words, this was simply a killing. 4 days after A.J. Owens was shot, with pressure mounting from the community and from her family's legal team, Susan Lawrence was arrested. She was charged with manslaughter with a firearm, culpable negligence, battery, and 2 counts of assault. The state attorney for Florida's 5th Judicial Circuit, William Bill Gladson, laid out the reasoning behind the charges. Second-degree murder required proof of what the law calls a depraved mind, evidence of hatred, spite, or evil intent at the exact moment of the killing. As disturbing as Lawrence's actions were, his office determined there wasn't enough to meet that specific legal bar. Manslaughter with a firearm, a first-degree felony carrying up to 30 years in prison, was the charge that fit the evidence. The case went to trial. A jury heard the testimony, reviewed the footage, and reached its verdict: guilty of first-degree felony manslaughter with a firearm. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump, representing the Owens family, called the verdict a critical step toward justice for a mother whose children would carry the weight of that day for the rest of their lives. The family released their own statement, saying nothing could undo what had been taken from them, but that the verdict mattered. In 2024, Susan Lawrence was sentenced. The court ordered her to serve 25 years in a Florida state prison. For A.J. Owens's family, the sentencing closed one chapter of a story that began with a knock on a door and started another, one they never asked to be part of. A guilty verdict and a prison sentence don't end a story like this. They just mark where the next chapter begins. Pamela Diaz, A.J. Owens' mother, has spoken publicly about what came after. She said her family could finally begin a journey toward healing. Not closure, not an erasing of what happened, but a way to keep moving forward while carrying it.
Day of school for the children. As you all may be aware, it was a very emotional
That journey
day.
turned into action. The Owens family has worked to support other victims of gun violence, pushed for changes to gun laws, and taken up the broader fight for racial justice, channeling their grief into something that might prevent another family from living through the same thing. In 2025, Netflix released a documentary called The Perfect Neighbor, built almost entirely from the original police body camera footage, the same recordings from a year of 911 calls that investigators relied on. For the first time, the public could watch the pattern unfold in real time, exactly as officers experienced it, long before anyone knew where it would end. But this case isn't fully closed. From prison, Susan Lawrence has threatened to file a defamation countersuit against Pamela Diaz and AJ's children after the family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against her. The legal fight, in some form, continues. Step back, and this case fits into a pattern seen again and again. A disagreement between neighbors, left unresolved for months, ending in gunfire. And it raises a hard question about stand your ground laws. What happens when the person who pulls the trigger is also the person who started the conflict in the first place? In this case, investigators and a jury answered that question. Not every case gets that answer so clearly. What's left, in the end, is simple. A.J. Owens was a mother who spent her life making sure her children had what they needed.
My daughter, my grandchildren's mother, was shot and killed with her 9-year-old son standing next to her.
On June 2nd, 2023, all she wanted was her son's tablet back. If you were AJ that day, would you have knocked? Let me know in the comments. And here's another one for you. Do you think stand your ground laws need to change? Tell me why down below. If this case affected you, make sure you're subscribed. Next week, we're covering another case the headlines barely touched. A tablet, a knock, a door. That's all it took to end a mother's life. And the question we're left with is simple. How many more doors are out there?